Hello there, and welcome to Thank the Maker, a podcast about heroes, princesses, scoundrels, hokey religions, ancient weapons, and all things Star Wars. I'm Adam Russell.
And I am Mike Forrester, not SM33 today, although I should be holding my head under my arm as we land the ship, because that was a fantastic finale of Skeleton Crew, leaving me painfully asking Lucasfilm, please give us one more. Please give us one more. Who else we have here? Our dear friend Jason.
Jason, your head and your shoulders are so small.
It's just a tiny... He's the supervisor. He's the supervisor
just
for Manhattan.
Yeah, perfect. That's exactly what it... Yeah, or just a boomer who doesn't know how to change an avatar on our streaming software, apparently. So.
Sure. Well, there's a very specific reason for that. And, our dear friend Jason, for listeners, Jason has been not only our panic button for all things audio, but he has helped us in a ton of different projects, a lot of Mosh Isaac stuff, a lot of Thank the Maker stuff, and is a great friend of ours. And was Jason will at least kind of give your perspective on what's been happening over the last week, so people can get a little better picture of what's happening in a certain part of the country.
Sure thing. I mean, what a week. I am a proud resident of Altadena, California. If you are following the news, you know that Altadena was mostly lost. The neighborhood was burnt. We lost about 7,000 structures due to the Eaton fire in Los Angeles area. Thankfully, my house was not among those, although basically everything around my house is gone. And I've been displaced. It seems like it'll probably be for possibly a year or so. Right now, I'm talking to you from my sister-in-law's garage. She graciously is allowing my wife Wendy and I and our two pups and cat to crash with them for a little bit until we find longer-term housing at the end of this week. But it's been a very trying week. Obviously, I feel like we only people that we know, sadly, in the town that still will eventually have a home to go back to. It's been a lot of heartache, and it's going to be a super long road back.
Yeah. Well, we wanted to, of course, look at Star Wars as a way for us to distract ourselves from all of the things that are happening, but certainly didn't want to dismiss how many people we know that have been affected by this quite literally incredible disaster that's starting off the year 2025 and in a way, unfortunately, that I think most of us were anticipating. But we have more coming on that because we are going to we have teamed up with a bunch of friends. We have something in progress that's going to help. But it was important for us, I think, to have Jason on as only a friend, but also to be able to share a little bit. I think it's hard for the rest of the country at some point to go, we're complaining about not being sure if we're going to get season 2 and like what's going on, and we're arguing about stuff that really, as a whole, we're sharing our passion for a franchise of entertainment. But when it comes to the gripes of what it is that we're going to talk about over however long this next year, it's like it doesn't really compare to not only the people who have been working on the show that have been displaced to Southern California is Hollywood, where most of these projects are happening, or a lot of people who are working on these projects have been moved around because of them. So I think for us, we wanted to say, of course, to everyone out there who's been affected by that, we see you, we hear you, and we hope that everyone is kind of. I hope that you are finding a little bit of light in a dark time. But Jason, it's great to hear you, and I know that we've been following along with your story, so it's great to have you on tonight, man. I'm stoked to have you.
Yeah, very happy to be here, and to the rest of the greater Thank the Maker family, Discords, Patreons, definitely feeling the love and the outreach to the rest of my brothers and sisters out here. It's been super overwhelming. So. Thanks, and happy to get this distraction tonight.
For sure. So what do we got, Adam? We're talking immediate reactions. We're talking a little bit of our thoughts on the season before Nick comes. Nick, our dear friend Nick, is in of all places, Batu itself with his family, not able to be here. He's actually currently watching Skeleton Crew, and I'm kind of jealous because I want to go back and watch it like right now.
Yeah. Nick, Nick had to go to Batu because Skeleton Crew couldn't make it there. So, like, somebody had to go get there and represent. But the finale, nonetheless, I loved. I think we talked about a little bit about this before we hit record. We feel great about the finale, and we're stoked to see more with these kids, like we've been saying all season. But who knows what's going to happen? Because this, although this was, this show ended in a way that left a lot of unknowns. It ended very abruptly, I thought. Like, not just where it ended, but the pace of the last, like, 30 seconds. It was like, bam, bam, bam. Oh, move out of the way. You're going to fall. We're gone, So I want more. We all want more, but we don't know what's going to happen because the way Star Wars has been working the past few years, things get announced, they don't get made. Things go on the air, they don't get a second season. Schedules change. Who knows? So a lot of emotions right now, especially given the state of the world. So let's just talk about what we loved and enjoy this time here. And we'll skip Stolen Plans because there were no new big appearances or anything that we really need to mention.
Besides B-Wings, I mean, let's just give it out for the B-Wings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Corvette's back. I mean, we got things we can
co-starring B-Wings with live action lasers.
Sure. And that's and that was nice to finally get the cannons on the B-Wings for for EU fans and for fans of Squadrons and everything who's really seen like what a badass ship the B-Wing is and all its goofiness, right? It's fantastic. So I don't know, Adam. I mean, from your perspective, we have both been in love with this because it pays tribute to so many fantastic movies that we grew up with that make us feel all kinds of things. And I think that it's rare to have a show, I would say, even outside of Star Wars, that has been this consistent in terms of, hitting all the notes, not making it feel too over the top. There were plenty of homages, I think, too. There were times where I was saying, man, it feels like E.T. It feels Goonies. There's multiple moments in there. But I mean, what did we're like riding the high of going, that was an awesome finale. But like specifically, how are you feeling in regards to going, we'll get more in depth with it when Nick is back. But I think, from your perspective, Skeleton Crew, season finale, hopefully not series finale, but like, what are your takeaways from it?
My takeaways are that it wrapped up in an exciting way, in that we got action pretty much nonstop. It was fulfilling in that the kids are the heroes. They get the adults to listen to them, follow their lead. It's their plan. Everything you want out of a kid's movie. Every time, as a kid, you watch anything. You watch something like the Goonies, and it's like, oh, come on, these stupid parents, they just don't understand, So we get that satisfying kind of ending where they take charge. But then so many things are left unanswered. There are so many possibilities for what could happen next. This is the first episode that I watched all the way through the credits. I scrolled all the way through. I was like, come on, is this going to be one of those things? Are we going to get a post-credits thing?
Right. It did make me feel like that for sure.
What about you guys? What are your larger feelings at this point?
Jason, you're riding high, man. Tell us.
Thanks. I felt like, the scope overall of this felt larger than what we had received on other Star Wars series on Disney Plus that relied heavily on the volume. This one, you didn't really feel the volume. It felt big. And now in this last episode, the scope just got even larger. It's like everything just felt big. It breathed. Everything was very cinematic, amazing visuals in it. Boy, I think they really hit it out of the park. And this series seems to have accelerated as it went through those 8 episodes as well. So I want to, as a card-carrying now old guy, give a shout out to Wendell, really coming out of his shell and really show. Well, through the whole thing, you had to wonder. Wim had that sense of adventure and that desire for fighting and swashbuckling and everything else. It had to come from somewhere, and it turns out it came from his dad. So, right on, Dad, man. He saved the day.
Yeah,
Cleared
he's
the chasm. Did you see that? Did you see what I did?
Yeah, and also of course, like being like, I'm a level 7 supervisor. You're talking to a level, like he's like trying to like let his kid know, like, dude, trust me, I'm like the most badass dude on this planet full of droids. I think from the perspective of looking at, like I said, I think it was such a consistent show, and I think that's been some of the frustration that I think has popped up, and it's just been inconsistencies. I think for us as fans, it's very easy for us to criticize about things that really don't matter. There's things where I would listen to some of my friends who aren't hardcore Star Wars fans that had no problem with things that quote unquote hardcore quote unquote fans that had issues with, right? And this show as a whole was hitting the right beats at the right time. I think we were kind of speculating that the kids were all going to have their own individual moments. There's times where Data would use the slick shoes and he was able to save the day. There's times where, you'd use the brawn of Bran from Goonies to, and Mikey would have this moment despite having asthma and being the kid who was like, I don't know, I think we got to do this. It felt all those moments hit. And I think and I give it a lot of shout out to our patrons, because we were calling a lot of this stuff. And I think that's when you have that level of predictability, that's what makes a really great, heartwarming show. Because there are definitely parts of me that was saying, man, they could go really dark with this. Like Jod could just straight up kill one of their parents right now. But I'm like, wait, I'm a 38-year-old guy who's been jaded by an additional 25 years of Hollywood and our dark turn appreciation for things like Blade Runner and Dune and all this stuff. And I'm like, Star Wars is supposed to be inspiring. It's supposed to make you feel good, right? Dave Filoni says this after he says that's what George Lucas told me. But I think from this perspective, I love the concept of I'm the only dad here, not a fur dad, human dad. The fact that the kids got to show their parents exactly how to do something is such a great testimonial to, I think, in some ways, I kind of feel like it's like how kids should be watching Star Wars to remind their parents, don't be stuck in your ways. You've been told the whole time, like, don't break rules. You can't whim. You can't do that. Like he knocks the droid over and he's like, what are you doing? I'm sitting here being like, dude, and he's like, Dad, the droids are dead. Basically, we got to get going. I loved that from a parent's perspective, because I feel like that's exactly what needs to happen in Star Wars right now. We need the next generation to remind us Star Wars is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be cool. It doesn't need to be about revenge and killing and being angry all the time. Ugh.
Dude, that observation is so spot on. And I was listening to a podcast earlier. It was a live stream that they put out. It was a bonus thing for patrons. So they talk. It's a science podcast, but they talk about whatever in their live stream. They brought up Skeleton Crew, and the one guy said, "Have you guys been watching it?" And he was the only one. He's like, it's pretty good. It's for kids, blah blah blah. And one of the other guys was like, man, I was hoping it's gonna be gritty and everything else. And yeah, that's the kind of stuff we like as adults, of course. But the only thing gritty about A New Hope came from the way it was made, as far as I'm concerned.
Sure.
Like the production itself made it gritty. Yes, Lucas wanted it to be a lived-in world, but the grit came from the production and kind of the things he was referencing. But it was he made an adventure movie for kids.
Right.
His words.
Right.
So everything beyond that, everything following that, everything he did was all kids. That was his focus. So if you want something else, like I'm sorry to get back to this, we do this all the time. If you want something gritty or you want something different, watch Aliens, watch
Dune. Yeah,
whatever.
I know
it's out there. Star Wars is supposed to be fun and adventurous, and like you said, hopeful. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they pulled that off so well, it made this such an inspiring, fun show. Makes me about as happy and satisfied as I can possibly be with Star Wars.
Yeah. Yep.
short of a theatrical film in a theater.
Sure.
Because
Well,
that's the experience we're still missing.
I mean, I guess now that we've kind of seen it, I'm gonna ask Nick the same question next week. Do we feel like this show would have worked as a movie? Like, do we feel like if we would have condensed it down, I think when I look at it from like a critical level, I think there were some parts where like, Jod's exposition was a little long, but I think it's because like, we're fleshing out his character. And in a lot of ways, I can appreciate that we didn't know exactly where Jod was going to go. I mean, I'm actually still very curious because that little smirk at the end was like, watch this guy game the system again, because he is a survivor. He says that on there, right? He says that he's going to like work in, he's going to work himself in with the humans of Ad-Atten and say, oh, I was doing this, right? And just fit in. Is he going to sneak out with the New Republic? Is he going to, however he's going to survive? And I think it's awesome because we still can't figure out exactly what his plan is, other than he's a straight up scoundrel. And I love that. So I'm really hoping that at some point he gets the accolades that he deserves for the show, because I think that he was fantastic in the show. And I think what's really cool about leaving it open is that we still feel very satisfied with the finale that we got, but it leaves just enough open to not be a cliffhanger, right? If we don't see Jod Nawad again, it's okay, because we know that he's out there. And sometimes it's the curiosity that makes it really exciting. But I think all in all, Skeleton Crew worked really well as a show. I think it was awesome.
I think it for sure would work as a movie.
Agreed.
I mean,
agreed.
But I'm happy that we got 6 hours, whatever it is, of it. But yeah, I could for sure see it as a movie. And that we all would have been stoked to go to the theater and see this. I know that.
And that just gives you a little bit of insight on how difficult of a job it is to be an editor. I'm sure whenever Kai Patterson fires up the Avid to go and chop this one up, he's going to have to make some really tough decisions, because even though all 8 episodes were laid out in a very cinematic fashion with 3 very distinct acts, you could really see where you could cut it together for 2 hours. But boy, I loved everything that we got, and it made the whole tapestry of the show just so much more rich. It was great.
Agreed. Well, let's see what we can dig into specifically, because we do have some things hanging. The supervisor, which we essentially predicted. Did we say this on the show that we predicted it would be some kind of AI or droid?
Yeah. I think we had talked about it way in one of the earlier episodes. We had kind of drawn that parallel to what was the name of in Westworld? Rehoboam. You know what I mean? Whatever
for sure.
I think we had mentioned that, or saying it seems odd that there's it's the whole planet is run by droids. So I wasn't overly surprised by that, and I think a lot of the patrons had also discussed that. I did like that it had probably a nod to 2001: A Space Odyssey. It had the HAL, the red eye, and then it turns blue, and it's like, hey, don't worry, come on up. And then it's like, ooh, but
yeah,
you kind of had that
red to Jod, blue to the locals.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I what I'm wondering now, was there a supervisor for each planet, or how did that work? Because we found that the turbo laser on top of the school, like Ad-Akron had, that funny enough, Neil went up and operated. We figured that would be Wim, with the blaster, anything, any kind of big gun. So the consistencies are there, because we talked so much in that Ad-Akron episode about what was different about that planet, And we thought it was strange that there was this big blaster on top of the school. Why would that be there? Did that get added later? And so on and so forth. But no, there it was underneath. I don't know, it was shrouded in some way. There was like it looked like a snail shell that would like retract, right? So if that's there, does every tower have a supervisor? Is there one main AI that controls the whole thing? Like, is this stuff that we are meant to find out at all, or is this, you know, just meant to be like, it's probably the same on all of them. We're gonna wrap up the season if we don't have another one. Sorry, guys, this is what you get. Do you guys have thoughts?
Go ahead, Jason. Oh, I'm in.
Doesn't have thoughts.
That's no end thought. No, I think there was some speculation of the supervisor being Captain Renaud, and I think when we go back to it, it's like in some ways we've trained ourselves to believe that there's some kind of twist, right? But we had seen a captainish skeleton with the dagger in him that Jod steals and all of those things. So I think in some ways I hope Abrams is listening to this. We need an art of book, man. Bring it back. Like, we need the encyclopedia. We need to flesh all this stuff out. I still do kind of double down on the fact that I think at Aten, at Akron, all of these planets were designed to be experiments to kind of figure out what was the most efficient way to do it. Let a human be in charge of that. Let the humans be their social experiment. Turns out humans will find any way to create war for each other, and at Akron is what you get. The other planets were all destroyed. I think that for whatever reason, it's kind of like the idea or our reliance in some ways on technology, on droids. And I hope we actually get a confirmation. I'd be very interested to know what Pablo Hidalgo is and Matt Martin and the story group had kind of crafted up, because that might actually get fleshed out more. The fact that the barrier is shut down and that enough people know about AT-AT now makes it so that it probably is available. The New Republic knows about it. We know that the New Republic has holes in it. There's infiltrators in the New Republic that have come over from post-Imperial. This information will get out that one of the Old Republic mints is kind of quote unquote back on the table. And we have to figure out where the First Order was funded. We have to figure out exactly what was happening. How did Ilum get built? All of these things, I think, leave us very open and enough connection in Star Wars to go, that's certainly curious. So I don't know. I hope we get answers, because it still leaves enough mystery that I think it's awesome.
There's so much. I mean, leaving like the mystery of Captain Renaud. If we learn more about him, cool. But I don't think that's crucial. I know that's not crucial, because he's not tied to the Old Republic, the New Republic, everything that happens in between. But there is so much that's up in the air right now, and the patrons are talking in the chat. Zach and Graurock B are talking about the other planets. Were they all mints? Did they have other things they did for the Republic specifically? Graurock B is saying it seems like they each had their own functions. I would agree, but we have no idea what that would be. I mean, they could be refining coaxium or something like that. Like, who knows? It could be an entirely think about it like a government center sort of thing in a
planet that just grows. It's just a farming planet for food and sustainability. Yeah.
Yeah. Physics Buddy Joe brought up maybe at Akron was the armory, but which we talked about as well. But since we saw at and also have the turbo laser on top of the school, I don't know, that kind of shoots that down, no pun intended. But
nice.
Yeah, all stuff we would love to see in season 2. Crossing our fingers. Cautiously optimistic, because this is such a well-loved show, even if it isn't crushing on ratings. But what is? SM-33 survived, like we hoped. Some people just lose their head sometimes. It's fine.
I mean, this is it. It reminded me in some ways of like when 3PO gets stuffed into Chewie's pack. He
Yes.
completely
Yes.
disassembled, and he's still like, he like starts up. He's like, oh no, where is? But like there's just that like that sense of like hilariousness that the droids, unless they like straight up get disengaged, torn apart, destroyed, completely disassembled, they're still pretty hardy with a little bit of electricity, and that made me feel like C-3PO, and I thought that was awesome, especially how he like comes off the ship at the end and he's just acting like he's like, hey, we're back. But he just doesn't have a hat.
Did anybody else think that the Onyx Cinder was going to fall on him at the end? I was like, please don't.
Yeah. That would have been no blast. Yeah, that would have been awesome.
Patrons they're looking at the map from Kim's observatory in the chat. Does anything about the way these planets look indicate anything? It looks like simplified illustrations of like what their atmospheres look like, but
they have different patterns.
Yeah.
I was looking and I was kind of trying to find out when that got posted the other day. And I was trying to figure out if there was like some kind of like the way that they were arranged. Is there something there? And I don't, we go between back and forth of being like, was this a graphic designer just doing a really great design and, enough people went, hey, cool. Or is this something, even in comparison, like The Last Jedi, when you see the ancient Jedi text, what you see in the prop and what they put in there is so much more than what they put in the film. So it makes me think that maybe if we do get, a StarWars.com data bank or something, it might give us a little bit more of an indicator as to what this system was. But as of right now, I think they're just great designs.
I mean, I'm happy with that for the moment, but it would be, it's the kind of thing that, they make a second season and then we get a more detailed version. We see it close up and we learn a lot of shit.
We hit bingo. Kids learn about the old Republic.
Hey, wait, we're going to talk about that later.
Okay.
I'm not feeling generous towards us. It is what it is.
Our own biggest critic.
We get Jod's backstory.
Yep.
Finally, as promised. This comes after the supervisor calls bullshit on Jod, the red light, blue light scene.
Right.
Interestingly, supervisor says the last message from the Republic stated that all the Jedi were traitors. So which are you lying about, being an emissary or a Jedi?
Ah, tough choice.
So you have to wonder, did the barrier sort of go live or whatever in the wake of this Order 66 situation?
Sure.
Did each planet already have a barrier kind of in place as a failsafe? What do you guys think? Because if that's the last message, it was like, you think about like any post-apocalyptic movie where, like Silo or anything where people are holed up in a bunker, blast from the past.
Right.
You get a bit of news, you go into isolation. That's it.
Right. Well, I think for the most of the the Old Republic, the High Republic, the New Republic, the Galactic Republic, we're all aligned with the Jedi for the most part, right? So the idea that they would say Order 66, the Jedi are traitors, it would make sense from a programming standpoint to go, we only have emissaries that are, whatever the new government, the new Galactic Empire is going to only assign them. Anybody who says that they're a Jedi is a traitor. So I think it makes sense that would track out that the consistent communication of saying, this is our role, we do this, but then to say anyone who says that they're a Jedi is now cut off, right? Makes sense to me from that regard.
Yeah, if there's any clear indicator that this shit has hit the fan and they need to go into lockdown, it would be all the Jedi are traitors.
Simple enough.
Jason, you were about to say?
Yeah, it is interesting that that is the last message, because then that would indicate that, obviously the Republic is over. Palpatine took over at that moment. Um, but there was still some, throughput, obviously, of his leadership into the Empire. So, that raises a question of, why was that at and still functional for so long? And, don't want to get too tinfoil hat-ish, but possibly, maybe Palpatine knew that this thing was around, and maybe he was going to use it to fund some projects in the future, like the Final Order or something. But don't want to speculate too much. But yeah, it is very interesting that that's the last message, and then nothing else.
If you think about this statement followed by a question, the last message from the Republic stated that all the Jedi were traitors. So which are you lying about? Being an emissary or being a Jedi? Because if the supervisor thinks he's lying about being a Jedi, why would that matter if they are traitors? You know what I mean?
Like you're saying so if he was to say, "Oh, I'm lying about being an emissary, I'm a Jedi," then it would have treated him as the same kind of threat.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like I know that you're lying. I'm just curious.
Right. If you're lying about being a Jedi and you are just an emissary, that's a threat. If you're lying about being an emissary and you are a Jedi, that's a threat. If you believe the news that the Jedi were traitors. But if you don't believe the news that the Jedi were traitors, the implications of the question and the answer are a little different.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like, it's
Yeah,
kind
I
of
do.
an interesting series of statements and questions.
Right. And if I follow this correctly, if the supervisor is saying that he would be lying about being an emissary, does that not indicate that the supervisor knows that the Republic has failed? Because if there was still a Republic, or I'm sorry, since there's no Republic, no one can be an emissary. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. I think too, I mean, what seems to be put in place is that the droids seem to have a very human tolerance. Like I think back to like Wim's dad and it being like, you have a device behind your arms or behind your back. And it's like, please show me your other hand. Please show me your other hand. Show me both hands at the same time. It like kind of has like a very like, it's almost like an AI human learning of behavior of being like, it will tolerate you. And I think that's kind of what the supervisor was doing. It has a very like trying to be an accommodating thing so that the humans don't feel menaced or they don't feel like they're being threatened or whatever. So it has like a human quality to it, which makes me think maybe at one point it was programmed less as a protocol droid and more as, something like K2SO or something that has a very cut and dry way. We did this the way that we do things. I don't know. It's interesting regardless to think how we got to this point.
And that light was red the second the door was open. So to my nerd stories point in the patron chat, says, I wonder if there's a protocol that Jad was supposed to follow, but he didn't, so the supervisor already knew he wasn't one. From jump, door opens, red light. It's spun
assessing
around.
the threat. Yeah, exactly.
Like something's not quite right here. But as soon as supervisor is addressing the citizens, blue light.
Yeah, I like that. So, and speaking of which, so Jod's backstory, I think, is one that we feel very familiar with. His monologue is, when I was your age, all I cared about was not starving. I was living in a hole in the ground and a Jedi found me. She may have been desperate and ragged like me, but she told me I had potential. And that was, well, she only taught me a little bit before they hunted her down. They made me watch while they killed her. That's the galaxy. It's dark and it's full of a few pinpricks of light. And for those, I'll kill who I need to. So, spoken like a true gutter rat.
Yeah.
Someone who, and I like how they, Jod is a Jedi, or Jod has the Force. Jedi is able to manipulate the Force, but I like the fact that he wasn't some like Kylo Ren, didn't understand his own power. He wasn't great with it. He was barely able to hold Wim's dad back from, you know, grabbing the lever to destroy the barrier because he's untrained. He's trying to, you know, he's kind of trying to do both, where he's pulling the lightsaber and the kid, you know, Fern and Wim are holding it, right? And then he's, you know, I think it was a really great moment to illustrate that not all users with the Force are these just like unstoppable beings, because given what we saw in seeming like a very low hours of training with a Jedi, he wasn't that powerful with it, but he understood how to use it.
And to another point from the patron chat, KD23 said, wouldn't Jad be kind of old to be taken into the Jedi if he was the kid's age?
Right.
Of course, yeah. Making sense why he might, you know, his powers weren't that developed, because not only were they on the run and they were in this terrible situation clearly, but he was a little old to begin training unless you're, you know, Anakin or Luke Skywalker, and your midichlorian count's high enough that doesn't matter. Yeah, if you're just some average person out there and you're like 12 years old, it's like, I've got a late start. I'll start learn how to ride a bike now, I guess, and I'll crash into a bunch of shit and I won't be able to stop, you know? Yeah, so that makes sense, supporting your what you're saying, Mike, about him not exactly being an expert.
And bravo, John Watts and Christopher Ford, for introducing a villain and keeping him a villain. I think that a lot of us were anticipating Jod would have some sort of redemption at the end, and no, he is bad to the bone, man.
Well, it's like in like Wim like called out to him, almost like he forgave him, that he was like, you're scared, like you know that you're beat, you're not a bad guy. It's it's kind of like one of those things where I don't want to say it was like Chunk. I'm sorry, I don't want to say that it was like oh my gosh, who am I thinking of? Hey, you guys, Sloth. The Fratellis were bad all the way through, right? But like we thought that Sloth was like he was the monster.
Yeah.
Right. But that ends up being like their total, like, you know, sidekick hero, basically SM33. But I think when we think about those moments, it's like, you know, Jod did have redeeming qualities where like you had empathy for him. And I think that's what made a really great villain, is that you understood when he tells you that story, you can go, yeah, this guy has been trodden and beat down, and for someone who, you know, because he says, you know, we've been hungry, you do understand that survivor mentality, but I think the fact that he had that moment to go, am I beat? He watches his ship come in, beautiful, like, God, cinematography on that shot, you know what I mean? That's one of those Star Wars shots right there, where he looks up and rather than like kind of like cowers and like, oh no, he's like, that just means I'm about to get a whole lot richer because I don't have to split any of what I'm going to steal with anybody else, you know? And it's just like, yes, we need that.
Yeah, I need to watch it again. We all need to watch it again. I'm with you that he's not truly bad to his core, but he just is who he is. He is a pirate. He has grown up to become a piece of shit. But he's frustrated in the moment where I forgot exactly what happened to kind of make him pop off, but he's like, none of this had to happen.
Yeah. He's like, I don't want to kill I don't want to hurt anyone.
It's when KB's ship crashes because there is a little connection there, right?
Right.
From the episode where she was still awake and they had that little conversation.
Right.
And he almost, I mean, Jude Law plays it like he almost tears up, you know?
Yeah.
So, yes, in the end, he's still a bad guy and he's not redeemed, but there is that little twinkle, that little ember of something better than ultimate bad guy.
Right. And I believe him when he said, I don't want to hurt anyone. You know, this had to happen like this. He's like, I just wanted the money. Let me get out of here. I do believe him. And I think that's like Jude Law did a great job with that character, because he could very well end up being a great anti-hero in the future of Star Wars. And I think that's kind of cool, because at some point, again, it's like we get to that point where it's like, the more we've fleshed out Han Solo's story, the more and more he becomes the beloved scoundrel. But like, there is still plenty of things about Han Solo that we forget about, that the dude would still probably double cross you and leave you in the dust.
Yeah, like a little shittier Hondo Onaka.
Hello, my friends. Yeah, absolutely. There's those moments of those characters that like I do like when they flirt in the gray area, but it doesn't have to be this like, they're flirting with the evil side of things. And you're like, you got a friend that you're going, yeah, I like his company, but I wouldn't trust him around my wallet.
You know what? I would put him more on the level of, oh, come on, Brian. Woody Harrelson's character in Solo.
Tobias Beckett.
Yeah, more on that level.
Right.
Like just a simple man trying to make his way in the galaxy, has to
Sure.
do crimes, has
We all gotta do
respect for
crimes.
Han when he shoots him. Like, I would have shot you too, kid. Good move,
Yep.
And a great articulation of who this dude really is by Graw Rockby in the patron chat. He says, Jod is someone who lets his trauma define his life and just uses it as an excuse not to be better.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yep.
There it is.
Great way to put it.
Let's talk about really quickly some things that happen. A couple more things that happen, like at the end, and then we can do a same style Den of Antiquities that we did last week, where I have a list of some vague references, and we can just go back and forth and list off some things that reminded us of stuff, because we don't have any true deep cuts that we can identify here. The X-Wings arriving, and the Corvette that arrives at the end. These are truly New Republic ships. The one pilot had the same helmet as Ms. Carson Teva, right?
Similar. The blue and yellow, yeah, which we saw in the E-Wings, in Lothal, and the New Republic. Their colors are this blue and yellow. That seems to be pretty consistent. Jason, back me up on that.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say that seems like the fallback sort of general space cop New Republic gear, and then obviously our lead X-wing pilot there, Kent, who we first met in episode 3, 4.
Yep.
He's got a little bit of flair on his helmet, but otherwise, without a doubt, New Republic folks.
Yeah. So is that that's not a T, is that a T68? What's the upgraded model of that? It doesn't seem like it's a T65, but it could be. Because I think the turrets, or I'm sorry, not the turrets, the cannons are different, right?
That's right, Mike. And you know what? I'm gonna have to look it up to back myself up. But yes, the bottom two laser cannons, instead of being laser cannons, they are ion cannons for disabling ships.
Right.
And it was somebody got to work on Wikipedia already, giving that version a name. And I think it was simply just a variant of the T65. It was a T65.
I'm fine with it.
DE, something like that. Yeah.
There we go. I'm fine with it. So I'm sure we'll get some kind of, hopefully some more toys coming out of this. I can't buy them. But I hope we get them. Okay. So we're not totally in the we're not in this T70 classification yet. But I think in regards the fact that we got to see B-Wings coming in, I thought we had kind of speculated that we saw Y-Wings, like, when they first arrived at whatever the pirate den was. But I think it was really cool to see the B-Wings with the, I can't remember what's the name of that laser, proto laser. I can't remember the name of the laser, but, to see that in action, they just ripped through that ship. That was watching that thing come in was so sinister, and it had that, it has that big, long, like almost like a shark fin on it. I just thought that was so cool watching that come through. And then you're kind of sitting there going, all right, the pirates are here. In a part of me, Jada's like, well, no, we're not here to hurt you. Don't worry about it. And then all the cannons just go right on the ground, complete aerial bombardment, Thrawn style. I was like, yeah, look at these guys. So
Gnarly.
I thought, yeah, it was pretty awesome.
You know what? I was about to say something about the Corvette that flies over one of the last shots, but I'll save that for this half-assed Den of Antiquities that we're about to do.
Well, let me also say, Vane, we did not see Vane.
Didn't see him go down.
We didn't see him go down. So Vane is out there. We're gonna have to get Marty on the show. We gotta talk. We gotta get him on.
Yeah, you would hope that they're gonna save a character like that for yet another series. We haven't seen Hondo yet. And they talked about specifically, I don't know if we mentioned it last week, there was an article that came out that said they very much considered putting Hondo in, but there just wasn't a place that made sense in the story because you don't just toss Hondo Onaka in for one scene, a little cameo. He's too important in the universe, even if only from animation. Too important to just throw in as a little side character. So
yeah,
that makes me think that they care enough that that would be a season 2 thing potentially. Hondo, Vane's still there.
Right.
We'll see what we see.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's do a little Den of Antiquities.
For over 1,000 generations.
It is the dark saber.
It's a Kalikori.
A Sith wayfinder.
Dark science. Cloning. Secrets only the Sith knew.
All right, like I said, we'll just do this casually and kind of talk through it. But since we just came off this discussion about the last few shots and the ships and whatnot, the Corsair, sorry, the Corvette,
yep,
the ship that arrives, that we all, this familiar body shape that we know from the opening of 1977, A New Hope, Star Wars.
Right.
The Tantive 4, which was Leia's ship.
Yep.
It was this same model from what I can tell.
Right.
We didn't get a ton of angles of the ship, but it looks to be the same model.
Right.
Different paint job on this. It's got blue trim versus the red. The only one that I could find that had blue trim was from a comic, and it can't be this same one because, you know what? Shit, maybe it could be. I don't know. So there is a let's see, a New Republic era comic. I have it here, son of a bitch. It is Hux, Age of Resistance. Age of Resistance General Hux is the name of the one. So Age of the Resistance is this whole series. There's like a Resistance one, there's a First Order one, there's a Hux one specifically, and he and Kylo Ren crash on this planet, an unnamed planet, and there is a former a pilot from Alderaan who narrowly escaped Alderaan, has this Corvette that has almost this exact same paint job, and he's just been chilling on this planet. He's got a big ass beard. They happen to meet him there. I think they kill him. It wouldn't make sense so much that this ship would show up, but it is almost the identical paint job. I'm gonna text this to you guys right now in the chat. But it is a common ship, so it's not like, I don't know. It's not like it necessarily needs to be anything special. But
if Physics Buddy Joe had called out that it very well could be the Liberator, which
I saw that too.
Which was as the Phoenix home. That was the kind of the home base for the Phoenix Cell in years prior to the Battle of Yavin. I could see it. I could absolutely see it. It's got a very cool paint job on here. Hang on. Gotta let the plows go by. A little bit different scenario we have here than Jason does. But most importantly, I think, just the fact that we got to see these classic ships come in and kind of do what the Republic does, right? We could just got these great looks, these iconic silhouettes. And they didn't need to do that. They could have had some, I was kind of hoping for an A-wing for you, Jason. I'm really sorry, man. But I think it was really cool how they had this like strike team that exists that Kim gets to call in. And it kind of, I think, in my opinion, kind of shows that the New Republic is actually pretty stacked in regards to kind of taking control of the galaxy, because the fact that they're able to get to Ad-Aden quickly enough shows that, she goes, we've got a hyperspace lane straight to you. So I think that's a pretty cool opportunity for future storytelling. Another thing in the Dana Vento movies, which I think is great. I've been watching over you and your daughter with great interest.
Sounds awfully familiar.
A classic line from Bad Guys, with great interest. I thought that was a pretty nice little line right there. And the sequence where the pirate ship comes through the barrier and parks over the city are very Independence Day, which I agree with that, Adam. I think that's good. I think the
War of the Worlds vibe too.
War of the Worlds coming through the clouds. You kind of see this this crazy silhouette coming through here.
And so it was that for me for sure, but also the sequence of, cutting to all the different people in their different locations, in the bathtub, out in the street, everywhere, looking up, and you see the lights pass overhead. Any kind of invasion film,
Right? Yeah,
with those great like sweeping, giant wide shots, and then the little vignettes of each different family or citizen's lives just being like changed in an instant as this is happening.
Right.
Very familiar.
There was a moment when the barrier goes down and they actually got to see what the stars looked like. This is actually a very, very, very subtle little moment, because I think for everyone that watched Star Wars as a kid, when you still had that wonderment of a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, right? Starts off with stars. I think every single Star Wars movie starts with a star field.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool that it almost gave them that perspective of is adventure out there. You know what I mean? And I think in a way I know we're looking into it very hard, but there's this idea of going, if you remember what that sense of adventure is like, especially for the kids, especially for us as adults to remember what Star Wars is like. There's something really, really, really beautiful about that. So I thought that was a great little moment that was like, oh, wow, we got rid of the barrier. I'm like, I think there's more than that. I think there's more than that. I like this note that you put in here, Adam. KB comes sliding out of the ship like DuckTales. He's like Scrooge McDuck. That is pretty funny. I laughed. There's like, it's just credits. There's like so many credits, and then it's just like gold wave, and then KB's body is, she's just like, did we win? And they're all like, yeah. You couldn't help but smile.
Yeah.
And just feel like that joy. And then you noted in here, Jason, our resident audio guy, the Kylo-esque theme again that Jod has, which I don't know if we still have that, like, if we've confirmed that, but the out of order Kylo, as we called it, that Nick didn't want to agree to, Jod sticks it right into the supervisor. Did you pick up that theme?
I didn't pick it up exactly, but I'll definitely take your word for it. Everything that anybody at Skywalker Sound does is always extremely intentional and done for a reason.
Sure.
The one thing that I did pick up, Ian, saber enthusiast, nerd, saber obsessed, is that despite the fact that Jod's lightsaber was blue, they still gave it a bit of a personality. And it had kind of that unstable crackle in the same way that Kylo's does a little bit. It sounded angry whenever he swung it around. And I would be curious to go back a few episodes before, we really knew his intentions and kind of, see what that saber sounded like before. Because it sounded angrier to me now than it did before.
I would love to investigate that, because I think it gives a little bit, because, and I like that the cover story that the kids were trying to like confuse him with was a Kyber story, right? A story of, oh, the ancient crystal of the old warriors, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, and it's true. I think, like, in that way of saying, the Kyber, the warrior, the Kyber chooses the warrior. There's certainly something there for saying, if this Kyber doesn't like the way that it's being responded to, and I think they have to go, because again, it's showing that Jod is not, it shows that Jod is not a bad guy in the traditional sense. He's definitely more in that gray area. But I think when the difference of, like, when Wim turns it on, I thought, Wim stands there and he's got it. I'm just like, man, we were all there as kids. So it'll be interesting to do a rewatch and figure out if that's true.
I think I have the Kylo-esque theme here.
Okay.
I have it frozen right on the moment when he stabs the eye, and great shot here, because the way it's framed and the red eye, the way it's lighting Jod, it lights his face all red, even though he's got the blue lightsaber. It's great.
Sure. That's pretty close.
That's damn close, dude.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, it's a classic Star Wars bad guy motif, that's for sure. But I dig that.
Good shit.
Can I sneak one more in?
Yeah, go.
Of course.
If it's not lightsabers, it's going to be Rebel starfighters for me. In addition to the fact that we're seeing B-wings for the first time in live action since Return of the Jedi,
Yeah.
we also saw, as they were taking down the pirates frigate at the end there, using that focus beam laser. The only other time I believe that we saw that was in Rebels episode Wings of the Master, when they had the B-wing prototype. And that prototype had that specific type of focus beam laser, and we got it. So they must have figured it out. They just couldn't get it in time for Return of the Jedi, but they got it for 9 years later or whatever. Yeah.
Sure. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, they didn't meet their rollout deadline. I had to
Resources were tight.
Yeah.
Send them up.
And the last thing for me that was a straight callback to E.T. The whole second half, I mean, the majority of the episode, actually, the fact that the kids go to, their final mission, they get on bikes. The kids are the ones that are going to take us to the end. And, I mean, short of them flying across a moon and being silhouetted, I mean, it evoked that so directly that it's 100% on purpose, right? I mean, this isn't something that they just like, yeah, put the kids on the bikes. Like, they're poking at it at our this right, poking us right in the nostalgia.
Yeah,
on purpose. So I love that.
Yeah. No, it's great series. I'm looking forward to, I'm looking forward to kind of, I'm right now I'm sitting in this nice moment where it seems like most of the Star Wars fans that I want to be talking to are all very happy. As I'm starting to see more reactions roll out, there's a lot of people that are like, "Oh, season 2, let's get going," and I think that's great. So I hope all of you do your due diligence as Level 7 systems coordinators and tweet at Star Wars, threads them, tag them, do whatever you got to do. Let them know that
Text
we need
them.
season 2.
100%. All right, let's do something that I've been completely dropping the ball on for the past few weeks. We do our bonus segment for patrons. We answer a question from the Star Wars chat pack written by Kelly Knox. And I've been saying that we were going to read patron answers from the Patreon post, and we haven't been doing that. So let's read a few from last week. The question was, if you could bring one kind of technology from Star Wars to Earth, which would it be? My nerd story, one-word answer, lightsabers. I mean, that's everyone's go-to answer. It's great. We resisted, the three of us last week. We resisted. None of us guessed lightsabers, but I mean, it's a great answer. Buddy Colin Adams says, I would bring that basic hover technology that is everywhere. It appears to be really simple, low power, so that things like Grogu's pram or crates are just as easy to move. And of course, speeders would revolutionize basic travel.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yep.
That's one of those things like we talked about in the after show thing. You pick one technology like that, and that unlocks all kinds of other shit. So it's kind of like wishing for more wishes. I think that's great. And Davey Kassem says, true space flight, like how we fly in airplanes. I don't care where we go, as long as we go anywhere and explore everything we possibly can.
Sure.
Agreed.
Agreed.
This week, for the bonus segment for patrons, in the characters category, I like this one a lot. If you could visit a Star Wars filming location, where on our planet would you dream of going? I have a short list.
Same.
We'll do that in the after show segment for patrons. If you want to check that out, go to patreon.com/thankthemakerpod. For as little as $5 a week, you get access to that. An ad-free version of the podcast. You get access to the Discord. Fun stuff. We appreciate patrons so much. It's like literally the only way that this thing can continue is because of patrons, because ad revenue does not do it.
Yep, that is
Not
true.
payables.
That is true. We do have Mosh Isley tickets on sale. Please make sure you head over to Mosh Isley. Our friend Dion from Anne Berlin is going to be guest DJing, and our good friend Ryan Key is going to be showing up as a special guest to hang out and get real nerdy with you.
And 2, 3, 4, 5 monologues.
A couple of monologues. We'll watch your punk and emo show with great interest. It'd be very fun. So this will be a great time. So make sure you go to moshisley.com and grab your tickets today. And I think we can share maybe a little bit about what we got going on here, because we've got 3 people who are involved in this with some other good friends of ours who are familiar around the Discord. We're actually going to be in the next couple days here kicking off a fire relief fundraiser that is going to combine our 2 favorite things, which is Star Wars and music of all genres within our punk and emo.
All genres within an arm's reach that we can bring in to help.
When we were young. And what's really cool about this is that we have an art project. We've reached out to a couple makers, both who can cast. We're going to do some really cool art pieces combined with some really great pieces from our close circle of friends in the punk and emo crowd. And we're going to do a benefit that is going to hit multiple charities, because we recognize that the need is a little bit more than just one specific charity. Jason's going to be helping us with that. We've got Zach the Maker from our Patreon, and we've got Kevin Doom. We've got a bunch of people who are jumping in on this. It's going to be really great. And I know for a lot of people who followed along with us, me and Ramey with the Ornament Project, this is kind of how it goes, right? Like, we don't get our choice of when people need help. But I think in this particular need, Jason is such a close, near and dear friend of ours that we look at the level of need and say, let's do what we got to do to put a dent in this. And so stay tuned, because we have an announcement coming on Friday that's going to talk a little bit more about this, but we're very excited for that. So make sure you stay tuned to that. And what else we got, Adam? I think after that, we're kind of dry on Star Wars until Celebration in Japan.
Yeah, we'll have Nick back next week, and maybe Ryan Key. We'll see. He's behind on Skeleton Crew, but I'm trying to get him to catch up so we can do a full season wrap up, maybe with the old crew, and talk about what's next. And we've been talking about some format stuff going forward, so we'll see.
Yeah, he's for people who are like, "Where's Ryan Key?" He's busy doing something that's very cool. We're not going to say anything about it, but it's
You're
it's
going to be happy.
oh, you're going to be very happy, and it's very awesome. And so, we're going to kind of let him focus and do what he's got to do, and you will see him at Mosh Isley. So, yeah, I'm sure when he's ready to announce what he's been working on, everyone will be very happy for him as well. So,
Meanwhile, we got people in the comments like, dude, you only had one kid. Like, come on, it's been forever. Other stuff's going on too.
there's other things besides just having a child that he's got going on, which I mean, honestly, frankly, I'm jealous about. Okay, but he's doing very well, and we love him dearly. We hope to get him back on the show soon. But in the meantime, you get us, and we're just as we're almost as good. In so
I'm
many
taller.
ways. That's true.
So
He's a little taller than me. Dang it.
I don't know about that. Anyway, Jason, thanks for being with us, and it's been great to hang with you. I know making any of this possible is tough, so thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Happy to be here, and happy to come back whenever.
Sweet. All right, patrons, again, check out the bonus segment. Everyone else, we'll see you next week, and until then, may the force be with you. If you enjoy Thank the Maker, you can support us by following and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Or you can support us directly at patreon.com/thankthemakerpod, where you can get access to our Discord server, exclusive content, exclusive merch, our recording live stream, and more. Our patrons quite literally make Thank the Maker possible.